At the movie's beginning, we are shown two men negotiating a job with a mysterious suitcase whose contents are unknown. However, one of the men reneges on the deal, eliminates his partner, and cleans up the scene by setting fire. The next day, the police arrived to investigate the cause of the incident. The officers began collecting evidence to continue the investigation. Elsewhere, a man named Ethan was seen, who was known to have a wife named Nora, who was pregnant with their first child. Ethan and his wife work at an airport, where Nora works as office staff and Ethan as security staff. Realizing that he would soon become a father, Ethan asked his manager for a promotion. After much persuasion, his manager finally allows him to replace his friend, who is one level higher. Full of happiness, Ethan headed to his new desk, where his job was to check the contents of the passengers' suitcases. On the other hand, a group of criminals are shown preparing for their actions. The gang is divided into three parts: a man named Theo, who is in charge of intercepting and monitoring airport security cameras, another man who serves as an intruder by pretending to be a passenger, and another man who is in charge of holding hostage the families of the people they need to smooth their crime. Their ultimate goal is to smuggle a secret package onto the plane. While about to launch the action, Theo encountered a new problem. The family they kidnapped to be held hostage was not the family of the airport staff they had targeted. This happened because Ethan had now replaced the position previously held by the staff. In other words, Ethan is very unlucky because he should not be the target of the criminals. However, since the package had to be delivered immediately, the gang tracked Ethan's bio and headed to his house for more information. At his home, they found his wife's pay slip and a pregnancy test kit. Theo immediately began looking into Ethan and his wife's details. While Ethan was focusing on his work, a woman called him and told him that a hat and headset that did not belong to her were left in her suitcase. Ethan picked up the items and intended to put them in the lost and found. However, just as he was about to put it away, a notification popped up on his phone. The notification instructed Ethan to wear the headset. After putting it on, the criminals began to reveal their intentions. They told Ethan to get their luggage through the checkpoint, or else he would lose his loved ones. Ethan secretly tries to call 911, but Theo notices his efforts and orders him to hang up the call and put his cell phone away.
You accept this is happening, Ethan.
As Ethan sat back down, his face was visibly overcome with panic as he realized how dangerous his situation was. Theo immediately warned him to stay calm, given that his manager was watching. If the manager started to get suspicious, his wife's safety would be at stake. As Ethan continued with his work, Theo coldly threatened that if Ethan tried to do anything suspicious, he would not hesitate to take his wife's life. Despite being overwhelmed with fear, Ethan quickly tried another way to use his watch. He wrote a short message to his wife, hoping that it would be read and reported to the manager so that airport security could provide discreet assistance. However, again, an alert Theo noticed the attempt and managed to thwart it. After numerous failed attempts, Ethan tries to find out the gang's whereabouts, believing that one must be near the airport. However, his search was fruitless. While searching for an idea to inform his manager, Ethan decided to try a third way. He spotted a passenger's bag and pretended to be suspicious of its contents. Under the pretense of inspection, he asked for the passenger's passport and ticket. While checking the ticket, Ethan secretly wrote a message on the ticket. When he was done, he gave the ticket to the security guard, hoping it would be a clue to call for help. The security guard read Ethan's message and immediately understood his intentions. He immediately went with the ticket to report it. However, as he started walking, a man approached him and attacked him in a very subtle way, almost undetectable to anyone around. With just a slight touch, the man managed to take the officer's life without leaving a noticeable trace. Once the officer was down and helpless, one of the members of the criminal gang quickly took the ticket, ensuring Ethan's message never reached the authorities. Ethan paused for a moment, trying to compose himself after the shock of the security guard's death. As he sat down, a man approached him with a glare. The man again warned Ethan that every minor mistake would be paid for with the loss of life. In a cold tone, the man also provided new information. In a moment, a man in a red hat would be carrying a suitcase through the screening machine. As Ethan returns to his desk, he sees that his friend has already taken over his position. Ethan tried to ask to switch duties, but before that could happen, the manager arrived. In a stern tone, the manager said that his friend should stay on duty. According to the manager, Ethan was still too messy in his work, especially in these early days. To ensure the work went smoothly, the manager temporarily replaced Ethan, giving him time to calm down and regain his focus. Witnessing the incident, Theo didn't care what happened. He pressures Ethan, reminding him that his wife will be in danger if he fails to return to his seat. With an open mind, Ethan began to think cleverly. He rushed to the warehouse to get some alcohol, mixing it with the coffee he was going to give to his friend. After preparing the mixture, Ethan pretended that he had left his cell phone at his desk and rushed to his workplace. Once there, he swapped the coffee that had been mixed with alcohol with his friend's coffee, hoping that his friend would not be suspicious and the plan could go smoothly. After Ethan successfully swapped the coffee, one of the criminals playing a passenger immediately reported to the manager, claiming that a staff member had been seen drinking alcohol while at work. As this was considered a serious offense, Ethan's friend was expelled on the same day, with no chance to defend himself. Now, the gang of criminals began to take action. Ethan noticed a man in a red hat carrying a suitcase. When Ethan examined the briefcase, he felt an overwhelming fear. Inside the suitcase was a suspicious liquid tube, almost like an explosive. However, when Ethan checked the suitcase using the explosives recognition system, the object was undetected, making Ethan even more confused and anxious. On the other hand, Police Chief Nina is busy with investigations related to the fire and the two victims found at the movie's beginning. Her colleagues managed to reveal that the victims were fugitives involved in arms smuggling. As the investigation continues, they come across a page that reveals astonishing information. The chemical liquid found is the most dangerous viral weapon that does not yet have an antidote. Nina felt an immediate sense of urgency and contacted the Department of State Security to report the findings, fearing that this deadly weapon was freely roaming the country. Unfortunately, however, the newly arrived top brass of the security department downplayed the report, stating that it was probably just their imagination, without paying serious attention to the threat that had just come to light. Nina's colleagues later informed her that he had obtained essential data. About 3 hours ago, an emergency call to 911 was made by an airport officer named Ethan, but after that, there was no further information. In addition, at the same airport, a security guard was found dead of a heart attack. Realizing that this might not be a coincidence, Nina immediately sent her colleague to find the autopsy results of the recently deceased security guard. As it turned out, the autopsy results showed a scratch on the officer's hand that contained the poison that triggered the heart attack. Realizing a bigger conspiracy, Nina immediately contacted the airline where Ethan worked and asked them to stop all airport activities and conduct a thorough check. The airport manager immediately asks all staff to gather and conduct a short briefing. This was Ethan's chance to act, as Theo couldn't see him through the surveillance cameras, although he could still hear everything happening. Ethan knew he had to be careful, as the time was limited. Carefully, Ethan looked for an opportunity to sneak away with the passenger name recorder. He then replaces the criminal's name with the names of his two friends as a sign or clue that can be used when the manager and police check later. After the briefing, all the staff returned to their respective work positions. It wasn't long before the criminal in the red hat was called in by security for questioning. One of the gang members at the airport was furious, realizing that this might have been Ethan's idea. However, Ethan, who already felt confident that he had taken the right step, no longer cared about the criminal's threats or words. Without hesitation, he took off his headset and ran straight toward where his wife was, determined to protect her and prevent any further disasters the gang could cause. Unfortunately, however, when Ethan finally found his wife, he saw a shot aimed straight at her head. Ethan was forced to retreat, feeling he had no choice but to obey Theo's orders again. Theo tells him to go to the bathroom to meet up with his partner, who then beats him for his resistance. Meanwhile, the suitcase containing the dangerous liquid is about to be taken to a room by the manager. Ethan's presence there could lead to an even more significant information leak. The criminals, who knew the danger of the liquid, immediately activated the explosive timer on the suitcase. Ethan faces a difficult choice. He must take responsibility for everything that happens if the liquid explodes. The villains give Ethan an ultimatum that he must immediately go to the suitcase check room and eliminate the manager if necessary, because the only way to turn off the explosive timer is by touching the manual operation button inside the suitcase. If Ethan didn't do it immediately, then it was inevitable that everyone at the airport would be infected with the deadly virus in the liquid. Ethan ran straight to the luggage checking room, full of tension. Upon arrival, he immediately threatened the manager in the room, hoping to control the situation. However, seeing the man's reaction to the red hat, Ethan became angry. The man explained that he was forced to do all this to save his brother, who was being held captive by the same gang. As it turns out, Ethan and the man in the red hat are puppets in this cruel game. In a state of confusion and urgency, Ethan receives a call that provides clues on how to stop the chemical bomb. The voice on the other end of the line leads him step by step, giving detailed instructions to turn off the explosive timer built into the suitcase. After successfully defusing the explosive trigger on the suitcase, Ethan and the man in the red hat quickly carried the briefcase along with the manager's body on a trolley towards the back building. They aimed to hand over the suitcase to the criminals waiting there. However, shortly after that, the man in the red hat received orders to eliminate Ethan when the opportunity arose. While in a quiet place, the man in the red hat attempted to execute the order by opening fire on Ethan. Unfortunately, however, the shot ricocheted off a hard surface and hit himself. In an instant, the man in the red hat was down, dead from the shot that should have been aimed at Ethan. Knowing that his plan was about to fail and the situation was getting dangerous, Theo immediately took to the field to hunt down Ethan and his wife. On the other hand, Nina, the chief of police, who is on her way to the airport, gets an unexpected interruption. She finally realizes that the man regarded as the top brass of the security department is a traitor involved in the smuggling plan. Tensions run high, and they engage in an exchange of gunfire in the car, creating chaos in the middle of the road. Despite the dangerous situation, Nina made it out safely and continued to the airport. Upon arriving at the airport, Nina immediately looked for Ethan, but he was nowhere to be seen. As it turned out, Ethan was in a different place, trying to save himself and his wife from Theo's threat. Luckily, the brother of the man in the red hat, who had previously been taken hostage, escaped and showed up just in time. He accurately shot Theo, who was trying to execute Ethan and his wife. After escaping Theo's threat, Ethan and his wife immediately tracked down the whereabouts of the suitcase containing the dangerous material. They were shocked that the suitcase was already on the plane. However, what makes him even more confused is that the plane is not an international plane but an airplane bound for a local destination that will depart soon. Before the main plan failed, the criminals had prepared Plan B. They had prepared 2 tickets to ensure they could continue their mission if the first plane failed. A woman seen at the movie's beginning, who turned out to be involved in the network, played an essential role in this plan. She helped swap the tickets by creating 2 fake identities to buy different tickets under the same name. With the villain already on the plane with the bomb, Ethan's wife immediately informs Nina of the emergency. Hearing the news, Nina immediately contacts the police chief on duty to ground the flight to stop the bomb plot. However, right then and there, Ethan realizes a terrible thing. The bomb in the suitcase can only be stopped manually by pressing a special button inside the briefcase. Ethan knew that if the plane were stopped before it took off, the bad guys would surely get suspicious and instantly activate the bomb's detonation timer, which would cause a deadly explosion below and potentially destroy the entire airport, with many casualties that could be affected. With this realization, Ethan immediately came up with the idea to infiltrate the plane after takeoff. He thought of turning off the bomb secretly during the plane's flight so that the villains couldn't figure out his plan and activate the explosive faster. As Ethan headed to the plane, his wife immediately informed Nina of Ethan's dangerous plan. Although Nina initially doubted whether the plan could work, she eventually supported Ethan and permitted the flight leader to continue the flight. The decision was made in the hope that Ethan could prevent the bomb from exploding and save many lives. On the plane, Ethan immediately searched for the suitcase containing the bomb. He immediately began his efforts to defuse the bomb, while on the other side, the villain started to open his cell phone and intended to activate the detonation timer. However, upon seeing that the bomb could no longer be activated, the villain panicked and headed to the back of the plane to threaten Ethan. The two fight intensely, and Ethan must use his strength and wits to defeat the villain. In a tense and suspenseful fight, Ethan finally manages to defeat the villain, stop his threat, and save the flight. And so the movie ends.